We now want to take you live to British Columbia, where health officials are providing an update. Let's take a listen.
I apologize to everyone who had lost somebody to an overdose. I apologize for them becoming a victim to decades of failed policy. Today I stand here and that apology feels so useless in the wake of hundreds of more deaths. Today I'm angry. I'm angry at the loss of life and the sacrifice people have made to feel like it's been for nothing. Today I'm angry because we were in the same place we were 6 months ago, which is the same place we were 6 years ago when the crisis began. 6 months ago, we were here talking about 2021 being the worst, most devastating year on record since the public health emergency was declared. Today, we're here talking about a death rate that remains as high as ever. 6 years ago, nearly 1,000 people in the province died from illicit drug supply in a single year. Today, the same number of people have died in just half the time. Today, I'm angry because the only thing that's really changed over the past 6 months and the past 6 years is the unregulated drug supply has gotten increasingly worse. It's become more dangerous and more unpredictable. This is precisely how little has changed since the overdose public health emergency was declared in 2016. Back then, the best advice you could give someone was don't use alone. And today, it's the same thing. Don't use alone. Change little and little will change, and that's why I'm angry. We're not doing enough and it's killing people. For years, it's been a little bit more than an incremental changes, pilot project here, a few treatment beds there. Nothing substantial has changed to our laws, to our policies, and it's leading to so many more deaths. When I was living in addiction, I had multiple chances to get better. I had overdosed 6 times, went to treatment over a dozen times. Finally, something clicked for me, and I'm grateful that I had so many opportunities to be where I am today. However, the toxic drug supplies means that most people won't get multiple chances like I did. The toxic, unregulated drug supply is unforgiven, and there's no margin of error. That's even if they get a first chance. This is not an addictions crisis. This is an illicit drug toxicity crisis. I meet people every day who are seeking help but can't get it, and then society blames them for their failures. That makes me angry too. I get angry when I hear stories of somebody trying to access a doctor that they're denied. I get angry when I talk to somebody who tried to access detox and was told that it was a 2 to 4 week wait list. I get angry when I hear a story of people being turned away seeking safer supply from a prescriber. We haven't been able to give people an alternative to the illicit drug supply, whether that's through safe supply, treatment, or recovery, and so they die. There's something else that makes me angry. Much of the reason of why people are dying is they are unable to access treatment and care. It's because stigma and discrimination towards people who use drugs is so pervasive that policymakers feel like they can't or don't want to do what's necessary to address the crisis. Stigma and discrimination is also driving people to use alone, and the majority of people who are dying use alone. People are using alone in their homes, and that could be a home just like yours. Make no mistake, if you haven't been personally impacted by this crisis, you soon will be. This is happening everywhere, in our province. This is in our community. People are dying. They're dying alone. It's in Delta, Fort Nelson, Cranbrook, Vernon, Comox, everywhere. No community has been untouched by this. And don't think that dying alone means they leave nothing behind. These deaths represent somebody's someone. These are cherished people. They died from a combination of poison drugs and failed policies. The pain of loneliness isn't visible, but it's real. But stigma is driving people to use in isolation and despair, the state that we are allowing people to reach because of our collective inaction. This is also creating generations of trauma. Young people I see and hear how we talk about drug use, and people who use drugs, they internalize those messages. The messaging they hear about drugs is enforcing substance use and stigma, passing on shame to a younger generation They are told that drug use equals addiction, when the truth is not all people who use substances develop a substance use disorder or have any issues at all. How we talk about drug use plays a huge role in why people avoid reaching out, and the language we use around drug use and the issues that motivate drug use mean that young people are often left to cope alone in isolation. They're already dealing with stigma and not talking about it because they're ashamed. How are kids supposed to feel comfortable when asking for help when they already know they're being judged? I regularly give talks in schools and youth organizations. Young people tell me that they're using alone. The services that support them don't meet their needs of where they're at, if they exist at all. That sends a message to young people that we don't really care. Young people today, whether they use drugs or not, feeling this way breaks my heart and makes me angry. One teen came up to me after a recent talk at a local high school, and he thanked me for saying that drug users aren't bad people. My dad died of a drug overdose in 2020, but I don't tell people that. He wasn't a bad person. He was my dad, and he loved me. That's a 16-year-old boy dealing with that. Stigma is a direct result of our policies. We can't expect things to get better if we continue to do nothing about them. Nothing will change if we don't offer the services that meet people's needs. Nothing will change if we don't ensure that people can get the help they need when they need it and not have to wait weeks or travel to a different town to get it. Nothing will change if we don't make a safer supply accessible to anyone who needs it. The illicit drug market is not going to get better. Organized crime isn't suddenly going to put out a safer supply. We have to. And until we do, I'm going to stay angry and motivated, because I know inaction is killing our friends, our family members, people in our community, people who are cherished and loved. We have to do better, and we have to be better as people. Thank you. I'll now pass it over to Leslie McBain from Mom Stop the Harm.
Thank you, Guy. I would like to say that this tragic 6-month report is unbelievable. But I actually can't say that because I have seen the past 6 months through the eyes of families whose loved ones have died by toxic drug poisoning. I am angry too. Nothing substantive has changed in 7 years. Nothing the government has done has changed this catastrophic failure of drug policies that continue to kill the people who must access the drugs they need in the black market, which is largely run by organized crime. You could almost say that the government is actually supporting this dynamic by its inaction. I come from the family perspective. Mom Stop the Harm has about 3,700 members across Canada, and about 1,700 of those members are here in BC. Everyone who dies from toxic drugs is some mother's child, no matter their age, their race, religion, socioeconomic status, genders, rich, poor, middle class, location. Death from toxic drugs is the great equalizer. 6 to 7 people die every day in BC of drug poisoning. 7 families get that call, the one we are terrified to get. I got that call in 2014. It is not a phone call you will ever forget. It changes your life. So 7 families get that call today. They scramble to inform the rest of the family, friends, neighbors, bosses. They may encounter the terrible stigma present in those they must tell. They arrange funerals, and they might have to deal with law enforcement and other agencies. And they are grief-stricken for the rest of their lives. These deaths are and were preventable. That piles hurt upon hurt. Then there are the families whose loved ones are still with us, currently needing to access the illicit toxic drug supply. When the phone rings or there is a knock at the door, mothers and others fear it is with the message they knew might come. And as Guy has said, those who must access the toxic drug supply brush up against death every single day. And they know it might be they themselves that die. Where is the compassion? Where is the empathy? Where is the justice in that? Our legislators, our politicians, our leaders and bureaucrats in the Ministry of Health and of Mental Health and Addictions have yet to treat 10,000 deaths as an emergency. I ask, how many will it take? Where is the pivot point? Is it 11,000, 12,000, 20,000 deaths? We have lost a generation of innocent people to a preventable death in this province because the government is still stuck in prohibition of failed 100-year-old policy. Excuse me. I ask our Premier, John Horgan, our Minister of Health, Adrian Dix, and our Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Sheila Malcolmson, to actually implement the recommendation of the Coroner's Death Review Panel, the group of highly qualified experts who have informed the government in no uncertain terms how to stop this epidemic of death, ensuring a safer supply of drugs to those at risk of dying from the toxic supply, developing a 30 to 60 to and 90-day illicit drug toxicity action plan. We have not seen enough action. Only then will the deaths subside. I'm going to tell just a short story about a friend of mine named Sarah. Her daughter, Victoria, has lived in the downtown east side for several years. Victoria is addicted to substances. She has had several overdoses. She has had seizures from drug harms. And just recently, she had such severe seizures that she was put in ICU at St. Paul's Hospital. What happened there was she was treated with respect. She was treated with the care that she needed. She was treated well. She knew she was seen as a person. She went back into the different ward. Again, she was treated with respect and compassion and good medicine. At the end of her stay, an addictions doctor came and spoke with her and gave her a prescription for what she needed to go home with her mom and to go on to the next step. This is a good story. This is what should happen for every single person that ends up in a bad situation in the ER or clinics or wherever else. It is possible. So I say the solution is not impossible. And if it's not impossible, therefore it is possible. And while we've been here speaking, there's a good chance, excuse me, that someone in BC has died of toxic drug poisoning.